And that's very easily done in the zone mapping file. We'll just create individual lines. Right. At this point, we have what we need, and we can proceed to go ahead and push this information up to Citrix Cloud. If we're working with multiple source sites, we can override and merge in the data as we see fit. This tool is fairly configurable, so it lets us do those types of tasks as needed. And once the information is pushed up, we can go in and verify the specific data. So the use case here, maybe we need to populate some data from production and bring it over to DR or test environment, or maybe from a test environment to the dev environment, or maybe from one geography to another geography. This tool is generally available, and we encourage you to try it out in your own environment and see how it works for you. All right, next, I want to introduce some updates we made to our Cloud Connector. Folks that are not familiar with what the Cloud Connector tool is, it's basically something that allows customers to be able to connect Citrix Cloud services to their various resource locations. So the number of updates and update whenever they want by clicking the update button. Now, there's actually a blog that we have that exists on our citrix.com web blog site. You can actually just search for the words Cloud Connector to go a little bit further into what these updates mean and how they can be applied. Let's talk a little bit about non-domain join machines and use cases for non-domain join. So I'm sure we all know that Active Directory has been king for years. But increasingly, we're seeing use cases evolving around DevOps, third-party users, contractors, or different portions of the network where it might or just might not make sense to have an Active Directory environment or machines that belong to Active Directory domain. So maybe we're working with other IDPs, or we just need to manually specify specific users that have access to machines, right? So we first introduced the ability to work with non-domain join machines as part of what we previously called our Citrix Managed Desktops offering, now known as Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Standard for Azure. And we're pleased to announce that this capability is now available in the full Virtual Apps and Desktop service on Citrix Cloud. So again, an expanded use case really allows me to handle contractors, temporary workers, etc. This is a feature that's configured with PowerShell, just easy to leverage with the SDK, and you can assign specific users to machines as required. No Active Directory necessary. With other available IDP options and Classic AD being no longer the center of the universe as it once was, the longer-term goal is to reduce dependency on Active Directory. Next, we've actually introduced a tool to help provide a self-troubleshooting and automate checks on various components of the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop environment. It's called the Citrix Cloud Health Check Troubleshooting Tool. This is actually available for all Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops customers. It's a pretty lightweight tool and pretty quick and easy to download. You can get information like your status on your VDAs, your storefront servers, profile management for your apps and desktop service. And actually, I have a quick video that I can go through and kind of showcase what that looks like and how you can parse through some of the information that this tool populates. So I've gone through the initial installation. We're assuming that we've already installed the health check tool. The tool is running on the domain join machine. First, we're going to bring up the VDAs and verify that the status is active. I'm going to run the actual health check to see if there are any specific issues. Right, I noticed that there are a couple of issues found, and you can view the details, which includes the issue description and the relevant CTX article that you can reference to help resolve that. In this instance, there's a firewall-specific issue. And the administrator can log in to modify the different rules here to ensure that the error no longer happens. Next up is checking to see the second error message that came up, and there's an issue with the desktop service status. Again, there's a CTX article that can be referenced to help guide the administrator to solve whatever this issue is. In this instance, the admin is going to log in to the services and then start the desktop service. And once you do that, you can actually run the tool again and to see if there are any other specific issues that you may run into. In this instance, there's one more thing they need to check. But the key thing here to note that is we're introducing another tool to help admins be able to diagnose and proactively resolve any specific issues before they start impacting any users when they access their apps and desktops. All right. So every quarter or every release that we do, our HDX teams are constantly updating aspects that improve that end user experience of your Citrix sessions. With every VDA release, they are optimizing the CPU and memory usage, ensuring that it's optimized for the backend if you're running it on-prem or if you're running your hosts or you're hosting your app and desktop sessions in the cloud. Right. So not going into each one of these individually, but I want to touch on some of the key things here that are more heavily in demand from our customers. First is the Rendezvous explicit proxy support. Some environments that use Citrix Gateway Service, we introduced the Rendezvous protocol that allows HDX sessions to bypass that Citrix Cloud connector and connect directly and securely to the gateway service. Now, we're allowing customers to apply explicit proxies with Rendezvous. So these are all transparent proxies, non-transparent HTTP proxies, or SOCKS 5 proxies. They're all supported, right? So another thing we've introduced is we've improved and enhanced the drag and drop files across HDX sessions. Now, this is, of course, if your organization allows the user to drag and drop between HDX sessions. But now you can drag and drop files, groups of files, directories, or a combination of files and directories to and from the same client on the session. So again, this capability applies to desktop sessions as well as seamless app sessions. So another thing we introduced that was pretty unique was from a request for a specific use case, and it's a graphics quality slider. So if you are an end user in a Citrix session, and on the bottom right-hand side, there's a little toggle that you can select whether or not you want your session to prioritize performance or visual quality over one or the other. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, in some instances, you may have like a graphic designer or a CAD engineer that for some reason the Citrix session could be running into a little bit of poor bandwidth situation. Well, normally the Citrix session would prioritize performance so that users can keep working. If they really need to see rich visual quality, they can actually toggle that and ensure that they have an optimized visual quality at that moment. Right, and next, similar to our HDX teams, our Linux teams are constantly making regular updates every current release. The main thing our Linux teams are doing is making sure that the Linux VDA is on feature parity with our Windows VDA. So similar to the HDX slide, I'm not going to go through every individual component here. But the key thing here is we've introduced more platform support. We have Debian 10 support, Red Hat Enterprise 7.9, and Ubuntu 2004 support has gone GA. So if you're running remote PC on a Linux machine, we've introduced Wake on LAN for that. We've also improved the data points that could be received through Citrix Director for Linux virtual machines. So now you can actually see CPU and memory usage. Now, prior to this, that type of information was not available. Let's see what this looks like in Citrix Director. Well, here you can see, you can actually see CPU utilization as well as memory utilization for Linux. All right, so Workspace Environment Management, or WEM. Right? This is a solution that we've had around for quite some time, available both on premises and in the cloud. Now, when customers ask about workspace environment management, my response is simple. If you're not using it, you could literally be leaving money on the table. Now, WEM ensures that you're providing the best possible scalability, user density, best possible logon times, and logon experience for users, as well as fair sharing of resources across the environment. It literally allows you to get the best possible benefit out of whatever investment you've made across your infrastructure, be it cloud or on premises. Right. We have a blog on WEM recently with test results, some great data there from our engineering team. I encourage everyone to check that out. And there was a session on TechZone Live, fixing noisy neighbors, where you had that one user that's pegging the CPU on a multi-session host, and therefore it affects other users on that host, and they have to call the help desk. And so WEM intelligently detects that, dials down the requests for resources, and does that fair sharing to ensure that everyone gets a great experience and users stay productive. All these innovations have happened over the past couple of quarters now. Things around agent cache handling for non-persistent environments, being able to recreate the cache automatically within WEM, contextual filtering for GPOs, being able to intelligently apply Microsoft GPOs and then filter by Citrix specific criteria, such as delivery groups, in addition to your traditional Active Directory attributes and WMI and so forth. So being able to monitor profile containers and checking size and health of your profile containers, I'd like to draw your attention to the bottom left here. So reducing resource consumption of idle sessions. We all have idle sessions in our environment. Now, they could be sessions that are idle, or rather active but idle in use, or perhaps they might be disconnected sessions. In any case, they're consuming resources in your environment. Now, WEM is able to detect that intelligently, dial down those resource requests, and ultimately bring up the scalability in the environment. A number of other innovations here, memory optimization, and how you specify the thresholds here, with the theme of non-domain joined VDAs. Now with the WEM cloud service, you're able to take advantage of non-domain joined VDAs. Right? So towards the bottom right, you'll receive a link to a video that we did recently. Privilege as elevation for standard users. So the use case here is you have your legacy apps, homegrown apps, custom apps that require administrator rights for your user base. And we know that's not secure to make users admins in order to have to run specific applications. Now with WEM, you can specify executables and folders as well as time windows in which you like those processes to be elevated under separate contexts aside from the individual users. So it's completely seamless, right? So it allows users to do what they need to do while at the same time maintain a secure posture that is absolutely critical. And as you can see towards the top right, the WEM agent is more integrated than ever. It's now in the VDA installer. And the WEM console is more integrated, and that's within the Citrix apps and desktop service console. So a lot of great stuff happening around WEM. Again, whether you're on premises, whether in the cloud, most versions, editions, and entitlements allow you to take advantage of workspace environment management. We strongly encourage you to do that. Do not leave money on the table. Next up, I want to spare a moment talking about our investments with Google, specifically Google Cloud Platform. A lot of great work happening with Google across the board, be it on the endpoint side with our support for Chrome and some innovation there for Chromebooks. And then, of course, on the cloud side, really bringing online some fantastic integration on Google Cloud Platform from a VM perspective. From a security perspective, and also from a networking perspective, right? So we are really working together And you're going to continue to see that in the months to come. A lot of great customer implementations that have happened at scale. And here we see, we also have Tech Zone content. In fact, a dedicated section on Tech Zone. If you head out to techzone.citrix.com just for Google Cloud Platform. Now, whether or not Google Cloud Platform is your cloud of choice, remember at Citrix, one of our key pillars is providing choice for our customers. Because in many times, you might have specific use cases to run Azure for some workloads. Maybe you have some specific use cases for AWS or Google or IBM Cloud, right? And that's why we believe we want to allow our customers to run workloads in the cloud of their choice as it makes sense or for whatever reason. Now, building on Citrix's mission about choice, we are proud to announce that we have come out with the capability of allowing customers to be able to deploy desktop as a service workloads on demand within their virtual apps and desktop service. So virtual apps and desktop service continues to be like that go-to solution for customers on their cloud journey, regardless of where they are on their hybrid cloud spectrum. Our goal has always been for customers to bring together their on-premise deployments alongside that public cloud hosting to meet various business needs at their own pace. As we've heard from many administrators throughout the calendar year of 2020, there is a big need to scale rapidly and securely. We also know that in some cases, such as contractor hires, mergers and acquisitions, or temporary workers, right? So we want the same benefits of scale with some additional isolation from your primary Azure subscription. So we've partnered with Microsoft, and wouldn't a separate Azure subscription managed and maintained by the industry-leading virtualization vendor like Citrix be the perfect solution? So now you can subscribe to what's called Citrix Managed Azure and leverage that to deploy your workloads within a matter of minutes. The key thing here, I've seen this in action, right? The ability to deploy apps and desktops within 5 clicks. Now, it's pretty simple. It's got pay-as-you-go monthly subscriptions, simplified infrastructure management, and this is included with Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Standard for Azure, Advanced and Premium service, as well as Workspace Premium Plus. Right, taking it one click down, subscription is pay-as-you-go, and there's a couple of servicing options. You can pre-purchase consumption funds and have them available to leverage when you need it, or you can subscribe to Citrix Managed Azure and be billed monthly. Now, customers can also leverage their Microsoft Azure consumption commitment via Azure Marketplace. It's important to note that this actually allows support for multi-session or single-session Windows or Linux operating systems. A quick highlight of some of the key regions that Citrix Managed Azure is available. If you need a specific region that you don't necessarily see here, you can always use and leverage your BYO Azure for that specific catalog deployment. On the topic of continuing on putting apps and desktops within Azure in a fast and efficient way, we've updated our quick deploy feature within Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service to enable that simplified option to quickly deploy apps and desktops on Azure, right? So we've imported the actual Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop standard for Azure UI into our advanced and premium editions of the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service. This is ideal for customers that are looking to leverage Win 10 multi-session via Windows Virtual Desktop. All right, let's talk a little bit about resiliency and availability. We're incredibly proud, right, to announce the service continuity is in tech preview and will become generally available soon. Okay, so what exactly is service continuity? Well, service continuity is designed to provide as good as, or in many cases, better than on-premises resiliency. In fact, we've had about 80 customers so far officially submit requests to participate in the tech preview program as of late Q1. And this solution works effectively if you have an issue with communication from the Citrix Cloud Connector back to the Citrix Cloud Management Platform, or even if Citrix Cloud is having an issue at that particular point in time, users are still able to connect, right? So as long as there's a direct path from the endpoint through any gateway appliance to the backend VDA, users will still be able to connect in a very seamless manner. I would go as far as to say that this is going to be an industry game-changing innovation around virtual app and desktop delivery. In fact, what we're seeing so far is that customers are choosing Citrix Cloud over traditional on-premises environments, or even versus the competition for this feature alone, because of the availability and resiliency that this feature provides. And this feature isn't even generally available yet, and it's got that much excitement around it. Right? It's available in Tech Preview if you're a Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service customer. Now you can enable it with a feature toggle. You no longer have to reach out to us. If you are using it, we strongly encourage you, please reach out to our product management team via this email alias, servicecontinuity@citrix.com. They would love to hear your feedback as we approach general availability. This is supported for Citrix Workspace app for Windows, for Mac, and for Linux. I do want to note that support for Linux is for full Linux distros as opposed to customized distros that you will find on thin clients, for example. I also want to mention, how does this compare to things like localhost cache or LHC? Localhost cache has existed for quite some time, but it's just not designed to handle the nature and scope of outages that service continuity can. In terms of cloud connector failures or full on platform failures, this is much more comprehensive overall. It uses these long-lived secure lease files on the endpoint. This is all happening in the background, right? So now we're online. I'm going to launch Microsoft Word, and you'll notice that it launches just like a standard application would. Nothing out of the ordinary here. So then I'll proceed to close this particular published application, and then I will exit Workspace app. I'm not logging out, but just go ahead and exit Workspace app. The next thing we'll do is we'll simulate a Citrix Cloud Platform outage through the hosts file by just putting in some erroneous IP information for those FQDNs. And now we'll relaunch Workspace app. We're in an outage mode where we cannot communicate with Citrix Cloud, right? So the user is notified, hey, we're unable to connect to some of your resources, but some may still be available. So in fact, most still are. So now we launch Word, and remember, we don't have the Citrix Cloud backend platform to communicate with it at this point of time. So we're still going through an appropriate gateway, and we're launching the VDA. In this case, I believe it's coming from Azure. And since we don't have the authentication platform, users are prompted to enter the credentials. So in many cases, very straightforward. So we'll just enter our credentials here, and upon entering our credentials, in just a moment, you'll be presented with this application. Right? So what we've done here is that we've provided an extreme form of resilience and availability. What would have been potentially an outage, which who knows how long it may last for, leading to help desk calls, lost productivity, and increased costs for the organization. We've completely bypassed all that and are able to provide this great level of resilience and availability for the customer. So I dare say that this is game-changing. So here's a new update that improves the administrative experience in managing Citrix virtual apps and desktops. The Citrix Web Studio is now generally available. This is now going to be the new default studio for Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops Advanced and Premium editions. The new studio actually not only brings new web UI, but also improves response times for admin commands, also simplification of managing workloads to help admins manage their environments with agility. I'm going to introduce some new things in there and some other things that you're already familiar with. So Studio now supports using CSV files to bulk add machines to single session or multi-session OS catalogs, where machines are not powered or managed through Studio, or bulk add machines to remote PC access catalogs. We'll also introduce things like delegated administration, which is useful for large companies and enterprises that require that administrators to have segregated areas of responsibilities. For example, an administrator responsible for image management can create and modify machine catalogs, but cannot allocate users to delivery groups. It's pretty useful, but the main thing about Web Studio is just how fast it is. So this video showcases how responsive Web Studio is compared to our legacy studio. I'm going to go ahead and log in, and I'm going to try to go through Applications node. It takes a little time to enumerate the information with that node. So during the same node in Web Studio, it takes only 1 second, right? So 15 seconds versus 1 second doesn't necessarily sound like a big deal, but when you're multiplying that throughout the day, it adds up. So Azure Marketplace updates. So working with our partner Microsoft and how customers are looking to transact with us, we're expanding what's possible through Azure Marketplace. So we realize customers are taking advantage of Azure Marketplace purchases for Citrix. It could be an SMB organization or even various project teams or groups within larger organizations that prefer to transact in the marketplace. So some updates here include the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops Premium offering now available in the marketplace. We've expanded for tiered pricing, added to our Virtual Apps and Desktops and the Workspace Premium Plus products. There are monthly and tiered pricing available for DaaS offering. The Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop standard for Azure, as well as Citrix Managed Azure Consumption Funds. So these are funds that you can pre-purchase or sign up for monthly billing. And again, it's all about providing choice and flexibility for how you like to interact and leverage your environment. Speaking about Azure, Azure Shared Image Gallery with Machine Creation Services. So this is designed to really help speed up the VM boot time by leveraging this platform feature. We're essentially staging the virtual machines in the Azure Shared Image Gallery. Standard SSD type support, this type support. As you may know, we've had support for premium disks in Azure, and that's what we recommend for production, not just because of performance, but also the SLAs that they bring with them. But what about those dev and test environments, or perhaps environments that are less critical? Well, now you can take advantage of standard SSD disk types as well when you're provisioning VMs. Single resource group in Azure. We're continuing to expand the limits, or so-called configuration limits, in terms of what's possible in a given deployment and how far we could scale up versus scaling out. And the single resource group in Azure is a good example for large environments and being able to contain all of our resources within one nice confined single resource group. Well, security has been a big topic in monitoring in general. So we have some updates around session recording, and now we support AWS RDS database. So AWS RDS is cloud-based database. We previously had support for Azure Cloud SQL and now expanding our cloud native technologies for customers that are leveraging AWS. There's one less database that we have to set up and interface with another team in the organization. Right, the new unified web player was released in late 2020, just a few months ago, and we'll show you a video now for the streamlined player. So here we are in our web browser where we can easily review sessions, play them back. We can also filter and search for specific sessions across different criteria, such as event type or username, or look for things such as maybe one of the users inserting a USB flash drive and detect the type of event. Once we found the ones that we want to view, we can force view the session. We can comment on the session at given time intervals. Right? So if something maybe doesn't look right, we can just put a little note in there. So highly configurable, highly streamlined, and much more simplified than running the standalone player. This is fully integrated within the browser. So for our session recording customers, if you're taking advantage of it in either premium or taking advantage of it in apps and desktop service, definitely check out the new session recording player. Next, I'd like to invite my colleague Jukipri to introduce what's new in Citrix Workspace app, Citrix Analytics, and other updates. Over to you, Jewel.
Okay, hello everyone. Some of the key Workspace apps update. A new version of the Workspace app with a lot of performance and stability improvements. For the Workspace app for the Mac, we have introduced support for the Apple M1 chip. And Chrome OS Workspace app, we now support for the 64-bit webcams. For the Linux Workspace app, we are increased the virtual channel max size from the 32 to 64. The main goal is now also to ensure that going to feeder parity support Microsoft Teams optimization across all the major platforms. Let's now spend a few minutes talking about the analytic. You know, in delivery infrastructure, there are vast amount of data that generate across the entire digital workspace for the matter. But how do we go about the make sense it, being proactive and also determining what the actionable? We recently released the geofencing capability in security analytics. This has been incredible value. The distributed work model to pandemic has brought. Customers have been explicit specify the country, even the cities, allow or disallow, or perhaps even ones that require additional security layer. If you are connected from, say, outside or trusted site or trusted country, there may be enables a session recording, or maybe we are disallow things like a copy and paste to the another virtual channel. So through the geofencing capability, we have a great story around the Citrix analytic. One of our customer I want to call out there is a company by the name is Kaizen Approach. Now these are security consulting firms that take advantage the security analytic for their infrastructure. Understanding which the user at the high risk, which the lower risk, and putting the placing like geofencing that we are discussing here. In fact, they are even a fast way to say the Citrix Analytic is their favorite of the Citrix product. Let's talk a little about performance analytic. So this is closely tied to the virtual apps and desktop environment, both the on-premise or cloud. You can get multiple environment for the single pane of a glass of view. In this team has produced incredible innovation over the past a few months. Here we are just looking a few, but we will looking additional ones in the coming slide. But things like user dashboard enhancement are providing the right level of data required. Logon duration insight and really leveraging machine learning and helping admin better, more proactive, optimize logon duration before the user calling our help desk. So a lot of great innovation that have happened, and you can advantage of the trial of analytic. You just hear over the analyticcloud.com. Now there are additional capability as well, something as trivial of color code inside. Now we are able to color code specific either red or amber, metric that require attention as you're running your subsurface queries in analytic. Here we can look not just a session responsive number, but see that there are a fair amount that over the 300 millisecond in terms and round trip times, or looking at the session logon duration or profile loop times. So we are now that what the acceptable, what's not, and they can process to take action. From the visual summary as well, here we are looking at the subsurface area. We have just run basic query looking at the large session that have success and endpoint country that doesn't match with the specific criteria. And here you can see the endpoint city distribution and the number of the session. So previously we just present this information in a tabulary format. Now we are actually showing many of these clear results in a visual format. So a lot more engaging of the cost ability to export and take the data into your visualization tools of choice. Then we have availability insight. We all know that we can look the VDA which one have registered with our controller on premise or cloud. But the true availability in our state, what is our utilization? Performance analytics break it down into the very consumable metric. This particularly environment over 67 available, which is pretty good for the almost 13% that unavailable. We can click and drill into the viewer and see what the make in case. Again, maybe it's a licensing, maybe because the machine has some communication issue, maybe the networking team have made change. We can delve into the viewer. Now we break this across various time dimension as well. So how does the available look across the week versus the weekend? Maybe this is 24 times 7 environment. Of course, the critical that maintain maximum available across on the board. So really allowing you to maintain the focus across a variety of different metrics. Time to measure a consumable. Deliver group are consumable and you can process the data as you see fit there. About the machine action. Machine action allow you to take action on machine right from the within performance analytic. So here, there no need to context switch between analytic and the Citrix director monitoring console. Now, if you spot the issue for the example, you can automatically go into and put the machine into the maintenance mode. Begin the draining user or maybe shut down or restart the machine if that required. The executive visibility makes sense of the all data in your environment to ensure that management teams have that level of visibility in terms of what does and the availability look. What does the user experience look like across this environment? So here we can see on the screen you can go ahead the same common queries and you can see, you can send it out daily and weekly. This way your management teams can be informed on the overall status of the environment and again consumable means that makes sense of them. About the industry certification. Closing out some of the feature aspect of our presentation, I want to quickly highlight some of the recent industry certification about the Citrix virtual apps and desktop has attained. First, Citrix LTSR 1912 is now approved for the common criteria. Second, for the Citrix Cloud was approved for the FedRAMP ready status. You can actually find more detail about this on our Security Trust Center and compliance part of our website on the citrix.com about and Trust Center. Introducing the new Citrix virtual apps and desktop feature matrix. One of the main feedback we have always got, it's always been, even myself, I'm trying to look for the information of our various edition. We still have various metrics about I had navigate the various URLs, I had keep bookmarking to go and book reference. We noticed that there was not the most efficiency to gather information. Now, I'm actually proud to announce that we have improved that by introducing the new virtual apps and desktop feature matrix that actually now allow you to compare a key feature across a cloud service on-premise and well as a look various deployment comparison. It's a longer URL, but you can literally just Google Citrix virtual apps desktop features matrix and it will be main things that pop up. Now the good interesting about the Citrix and Windows Virtual Desktop or WVD. Citrix and Windows Virtual Desktop, you know that is a hot topic. Windows Virtual Desktop is a Microsoft Azure based on cloud VDI solution. It's turnkey desktop as a service offering with the exclusive capability like the Windows 10 Enterprise multi-session that allow multiple users to connect to a Windows 10 instance about the require any RDS call. So Windows Virtual Desktop has been incredibly attractive to the customer. But you know this is a very similar story and I really equate this value that Citrix has providing across Microsoft for the years and years. The value that we provide on top the terminal session and remote desktop service. Now on the cloud, the value where we are provide on the top of the Windows Virtual Desktop entitlement. Using the Citrix with your virtual desktop entitlement allow you to do far more the ultimate spending less over the life cycle of your environment. So we watching the video. What we have done that we have actually put together the nice nifty little cost calculator tools. Now we will take quick demo. So we start by specifying the number of peak user in your environment. By default to 1,000, we can put in 10,000. I will leave it Windows multi-session because it's the key feature the Azure Windows Virtual Desktop. So here you can click the calculate now. You will see that Windows Virtual Desktop have a desktop alone in the Windows Virtual Desktop order point solution. So you are able to do more across a number of dimension things like a compute, networking, and monitoring. A great innovation that we talk about here today. Being able to the right size of your virtual machine, auto-scale technology, intelligent power management, and etc. This is a release. We will be posting additional update to the incoming weeks and months to get even more granularly on the true Citrix value and cost savings. We can release on the Citrix on top Windows Virtual Desktop in Azure. Now, other things we would like to leave you with about learning and knowledge. When we talk about the cloud, we release the cloud is journey and everyone on different journey that makes sense for the organization, for the cloud and hybrid cloud. To do that, the new cloud learning series was released on our training platform, training.citrix.com. This is an ongoing set of cloud course that cover a broad collection of service and concept. So even if you are primary on-premises customer today or totally fine, there are some great content here considering the point and technology that would make sense to ramp up your skill set. The best part is this is a free, the most customer. All customers with attractive select priority and priority plus support are entitled to this training offering. So it also including in our access learning subscription plan. So check it out in the http://training.citrix.com. You will see in front and center. Okay. We are now going to begin answering the question submitting during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit the question on the box and in your control panel. With that, we can kick off with our first question. Number one, the question is, what is the timeline, if any, to support service continuity with the thin client device? Okay. We are continuing to work with our thin client vendor through our Citrix Ready program. It ought to give any timelines from the legal perspective because various thin client vendor make different customized to the image that we are provide to them. So I will say, stay tuned. If you do some question on the specific thin client, the platform, they are particularly interest to your organization. We encourage you to reach out to the email servicecontinuity@citrix.com. We would love to hear of them and priority according as we head toward general availability for the features.
Thanks, Joel. How about I take the next one?
Okay.
So the next question is, how does service continuity work for multi-tier applications when they're unable to connect to the internet? All right, so if it's a multi-tier application or any application for that matter, the application itself needs to have its own resiliency, and the application needs to ensure that it's making itself available. So service continuity helps with the resiliency throughout the connection path within Citrix, inclusive of the cloud connector and inclusive of the Citrix Cloud Platform, and is designed to mask any outages of those components. So if you have a multi-tier application that experiences an outage, then you will want to plan for availability and resiliency with that particular application, including multiple resource locations and multiple backends, and really architect the resiliency in so that you have various layers of the resilience and availability that you require in the environment. I'll take the next question as well. Is there any difference between localhost cache and service continuity? So localhost cache is a feature that provides a given amount of availability. Now, service continuity takes that much further and is designed to mask a broader array of potential outages that might occur across the entire Citrix Cloud Platform, specifically with Workspace, or the Citrix Cloud Services, or the Cloud Connector. Right? So localhost cache is more designed to provide availability across hybrid cloud environments and storefront. So localhost cache absolutely still does have its place. Service continuity is more cloud focused, more multi-component focused, providing that resilience and that availability. Jewel, how about you take the next one?
Okay. So what the maximum number of the VM supporting in the Azure single resource group? This is a good question related for the Azure and Windows Virtual Desktop. So the answer is, so with the single resource group in Azure, I will have to double check the configuration limits, but I know your team have tested in the thousands. In terms of resource location, our recommendation is 5,000 typically per resource location. We are always testing and increasing the number of our configuration limit and scale, and this is updated in our eDocs site for the Citrix scalability limit.
Thanks, Jewel. I'll take the next one. So
Okay.
next one is Citrix Analytics available for on-prem Citrix customers? Yes, absolutely. A common misconception that is not available for on-prem customers. Citrix Analytics is available for both on-prem customers and cloud customers. And for customers of both, you can aggregate multiple environments together to get that single pane of glass. It's sold as an add-on, and you can take advantage of security analytics, performance analytics, or we can have a bundle that includes both of them. And as many of our customers have said, it literally pays for itself in time in terms of improving security posture, improving performance, and reducing help desk calls. I think we'll stop here for today since time is almost up. And thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. Once again, you will see a survey for your completion once you leave today's webinar, and we would appreciate if you would fill that out and provide your feedback. You will also receive a follow-up email tomorrow with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. And on behalf of Citrix, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.